If any three teams epitomized the spirit of a Bulldog, it was the three football teams at Northeast Missouri State College, now Truman State University, who garnered MIAA conference championships in 1969, 70, and 71. Each team over the 3 years had specific victories that displayed their great character and will to win. The 1969 team's last game was against a non-conference opponent, Parsons College, at their home field. Parsons was extremely talented and jumped off to a 14-point lead in the first 5 minutes, but the Bulldogs battled back and came out on top, 20-17. In 1970, before the biggest crowd ever to watch an MIAA game, the Bulldogs prevailed over Central Missouri State on their homecoming in one of the hardest-hitting games ever played in the conference. The 1971 Bulldogs faced Western Illinois, who defeated the Dogs the previous year. With a stunning offensive performance and a gutty defense, the Dogs prevailed 35-21, avenging the previous year's defeat. The 1971 team was the first MIAA squad to go undefeated in conference play after Lincoln University joined the league. In summing up the achievements of the three Bulldog teams being inducted this evening, head coach Russ Sloan, himself a 2007 Missouri Sports Hall of Fame inductee, said, "I was blessed with an extraordinarily gifted coaching staff and a group of young men who constantly amazed me. I would not trade my association with these players and coaches for any other teams at any other school. For 3 years, we collectively caught lightning in a bottle, and our team motto has produced this ultimate state sports honor. What you give, you have, and what you don't give is lost forever." Ladies and gentlemen, accepting on behalf of the Northeast Missouri State College 69, 70, and 71 Bulldogs, Coach Russ Sloan.
When you're the final speaker and you've heard some extraordinary acceptance speeches, it's a challenge. And before I start, I want to acknowledge a couple of people. First of all, you're correct about a coach's wife. There's a special place in heaven for coaches' wives. And but my wife, yesterday was our 53rd wedding anniversary. My wife, Peggy, all 5 foot of her. Our second son weighed 10 pounds, 2 ounces. And so ugly. Oh, anyway. he snapped out of it. Our extraordinary president was Dr. Charles McLean. And let me tell you, if there was a Hall of Fame for college presidents, he'd be in the first class. I did not expect my line coach at Missouri, John Cadillac, to be here, but talk about a legend. He was a legend as a freshman coach, and he's a legend today. Norm Stewart was my idol. I was a senior at Columbia Hickman. I watched Norm play. He was my basketball idol at Missouri. Hank Bernide, the All-American receiver, was my football idol. And Norm is another legend. You should know that among the Bulldogs here, I've got one player that traveled from Prague in the Czech Republic to be here. Jeff Kropke, stand up. Jeff. Stand up. Jeff is a troubleshooter for IBM. Cummins and I think he's really a secret agent, but they send him all over the world to fix things. My teammate at Missouri was Ron Toman. There were 9 of us that were left playing out of 100 freshmen. Ron was our offensive coordinator for the first 2 years. We set all the passing and receiving records. Ron died a couple of years ago, but his son Scott flew here from Texas. Scott Toman, would you please stand up? Our trainer was Sam Nugent. Sam retired here. It's amazing what you can do with taking salt tablets, isn't that right, guys? But Sam's here, and Sam, I greatly treasure our relationship. You were You were by yourself with, I think, one assistant, Arnie Butte at the time, but Sam was a one-man gang, and appreciate him being here. If you guys did not see these Bulldogs play, I can best describe them that if you were trying to fill SEAL Team 6, you would start with this group. They were an amazing crew. If you wanted to describe them in one word, it would be character. And the games that were described, you can imagine our conference season was over. We were playing Parsons, and I guarantee you Parsons was extremely talented. And when you're behind 14-0 in the first 5 minutes, you think it's going to be a long day. But watch those guys come back and win was amazing. Central Missouri State probably maybe was the greatest team they ever had. Homecoming, biggest crowd, one of the hardest hitting games I have ever seen in my life at any level. Came back to beat them 28-21. The only loss they had all year in the regular season. And beat Western Illinois. Western Illinois was Division II power at the time. And great game, 35-21. 3 great games of character. What was really pleasing, though, as a coach, is that the final game we beat University of Missouri-Rolla 44-13. And Gail Bullman, who was the longtime football coach for the Miners, retired at the time. He probably watched 30 years of MIAA football. Came up to me after the game and said, Coach, he said, that was the greatest team I've ever seen play in the MIAA. And on that day, they were an absolute machine. There was an amazing blend of outstanding quarterbacks, running backs, and receivers. In those 3 years, we probably had the greatest receiving corps of any college in America. Absolutely amazing. And quarterbacks that could put the ball on the receiver, great running backs. But it was a blend of this immense skill talent and some of the guttiest, hard-nosed, tough, undersized usually, linemen and secondary that I've ever seen. And bringing them together and watching them on the field. We got off the bus to play University of Northern Iowa, and they laughed at us because they called us a high school team. Well, after beating them 22-8, they didn't laugh at us when we got back on the bus. The 70-71 team set all the passing and receiving records at Northeast. Coach Truman was the offensive coordinator, probably one of the greatest offensive coordinators in all of college football. We had a 9-game schedule that first season. We scored on the first possession 6 of the 9 games. It was that well thought out. 71 team was only the 3rd team in Northeast history to go 9-1. And as the film mentioned, the first MIAA team to go undefeated since Lincoln joined the league. And Lincoln was immensely talented at that time. Every Bulldog in this room, first is a survivor, and secondly is a winner. And for the linemen that played for Coach Craddock, you are survivors and you are winners. They talked about the games of character, and there are certain points where that is measurable, and you've seen the results of that. I was blessed with probably the finest coaching staff that you could have. Ron Tolman wound up coaching Montana at Notre Dame, brilliant coach. Chuck Shelton, the 2005 inductee of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. Our defensive unit in 71, 9-1, led the league in defense. Oftentimes we didn't have a 200-pounder on the field on defense. Amazing group. We had a freshman tackle started, 176 pounds. Unbelievable. Bill Richardson, Dr. Bill Richardson, probably the finest combination, teacher and coach, that I've ever met. Brilliant football mind and brilliant in the classroom. Bruce Craddock, fresh out of the Marine Corps, I hired Bruce. He played here. Bruce coached like he was a Marine Corps drill sergeant. And I'll tell you, what he did with our offensive line was absolutely unbelievable. And he got every ounce of effort out of those guys. He was an amazing coach. So when you look at the coaches that we had and where they went on, the successes that they had, very few times at the Division II level will you see that kind of excellence. I think we had two achievements that probably will never be replicated. One is probably we were the only Division II school in the history of Division II athletics to put 3 in the NFL out of 1 class and 2 more in the WFL. Amazing. And they all excelled. They all did well. We were the first to produce a Super Bowl ring winner in Linville Elliott, who was absolutely outstanding, 10-year career. And the other thing is that I believe since two-platoon football started in '65, that we may have been the only college defensive unit that had a whole unit at times without a 200-pounder on the defensive side of the ball and led the league in defense. They were quick, they were smart, they were aggressive, they never stood still. One thing we proved very definitely, we never judged players on their size. We judged them on the size of their heart. And guys like Karakni and Bickers and so many others that I could name played far beyond their size. And it was a joy to watch them play. Our motto was, what you give, you have. What you don't give is lost forever. And that certainly has proven to be true tonight. I think one of the great quotations, perhaps the greatest quotation that I've ever heard in college athletics, or athletics period, came from Vince Lombardi. And Bart Starr was talking about the first time Lombardi talked to the Green Bay Packers. And Lombardi said, gentlemen, we will constantly pursue perfection, knowing that perfection is impossible to achieve. But in constantly pursuing perfection, we will capture excellence. And so for 3 years, like Lombardi's teams, we constantly pursued perfection. We never achieved perfection, but we did capture excellence. For 40 plus years, I have been immensely proud of all of you as my players. And you're more than my players, you're my family. But tonight, I'm more than proud of you. I'm proud for you for obtaining the greatest honor that Missouri can bestow. And to Gerald Andrews, Marty Willitson, and the whole staff, I sit on the Florida Sports Hall of Fame board. We look at Missouri as the gold standard of Hall of Fames. And to all of you guys, I appreciate what you gave for 3 years. You could not have given more. And what you give, you have. What you don't give is lost forever. Thank you.